Hey friends, this is Rupali, communication coach and leadership coach. I'm here in the communication with Shannon, and she is a great friend of mine. She will talk about 8 steps to beatitude. Let's welcome Shannon. Hi Shannon.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to see you and talk with you. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here to have you. It's great. So tell us about yourself.
So, my name's Shannon Bradbury, and I am a mom of 5 kids. My oldest, their ages are my oldest is almost 19. Then I have an almost 17-year-old son. My daughter, my only girl, is 15. And then I have a son who's 12, and I have a son who's 8. So,
Wow.
yeah, and we homeschool, and I enjoy working out. I love to run, but slowly run, not fast. I love to run, and I love to drink tea. And I love in my spare time, I love to read books. Like, I'm an avid reader. I enjoy reading books, fiction, nonfiction, historical fiction. Yeah. And I also love a good Hallmark movie. I love Hallmark movies.
That's great.
So, yeah, and my husband and I co-authored a book together called What's the Matter, Love? And it's a teaching memoir.
Okay. Can you repeat it for me, please?
It's called What's the Matter, Love?
What's the Matter, Love? So can you tell us more about this book, like what it is about, and what is the main purpose about this book?
Well, in the book, it's about stop avoiding your negative emotions and learn to love yourself well. I have the book right here.
Wow, it's awesome. Yeah.
So it's about my journey we had 7 miscarriages, and it's about my journey, how I avoided my negative emotions because of grief, and how I began to love myself well. And it's a process of over 15 years. And then at the end, my husband wrote the book with me, and we talk about the Beatitudes from the Bible and the 8 steps to healing and loving yourself well.
Can you tell us more about 8 steps of healing and loving yourself more?
Sure. So I have some notes in front of me, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So the 8 steps in the book, they're at the back of the book. And just to begin your journey, it's the blueprint on how to love yourself well. And it starts off with humility, which is accepting your circumstances. Like, you cannot learn to grieve. Not learn to grieve, but you cannot grieve until you accept, like, this is what happened to me. And you have to accept, like, that's why I struggled with grieving, was because I wanted to avoid the pain. I wanted to pretend like it didn't happen. And so in order to heal, you have to accept your circumstances. And then the next step is mourning. You have to grieve your losses. You know, it might not be a miscarriage. I had 7 miscarriages and I had trauma from my past, but it could be the loss of a loved one, or it could be a divorce, or it could be the loss of a job. And so you need to take time to grieve. And a lot of people, when they grieve, they just quickly go through it and they don't take the time. Like, when I miscarried, it was just like back to homeschooling my kids after a week. And then what happens, because you're avoiding your emotions, you start getting stuck in depression and anxiety, and it makes it much worse. I remember when I was first grieving, somebody told me, Shannon, you need to take time to grieve now. And they gave me, they said, it doesn't matter how much time it takes, but really take this to heart. Take time to grieve, because if you don't grieve now, it's going to affect you later. And I would recommend 40 days, just taking, a lot of times people have to go back to work, after a loved one dies, and they have to move on. But even if it's setting some time aside at night to just grieve that loss, that's so helpful in healing. Otherwise, we just stuff it down and we just avoid it. So, and it's going to hurt. This process isn't fun. you're going to cry, you're going to be angry, but and we don't want to rush this step. Like, it's very important to really stay on this step for a while and even journal. And sometimes it's listening to songs that make us cry, and just feeling those emotions, and having times of solitude, maybe going on a walk and just meditating and just being quiet and talking to somebody about it. That was very helpful for me, to find somebody to talk to about and journal in my journal about it. And so that's the second step. And then the third step is taking responsibility for your life, owning your emotions. A lot of times we have an emotion, but we don't really know what to do with it. And it starts with like, I feel this way. And it starts with like your thinking, like the reason why you have an action, like it could be because it starts with your thoughts, and then the thoughts go into a feeling, and then that goes into an action, and that has a result. So like, you really want to take responsibility for like your thoughts, and don't just like wish them away, but like work through them. And that's so important, because like for me, that was an important step, because I just avoided it. I was just like, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to move on, And then the next step is follow your dreams, follow your desires, and choose to want more. A lot of us, we want to lose weight, or we want to be healthy, and we want to have a business, or we want to write a book. But like, we have to have desires and like want more than we already have, and follow the longings that we have in our heart. And then the next step is give yourself as many chances as you need. Like, there's going to be like times where you mess up, or times that you try something and it doesn't work. You might try to write a book, and it takes you like 3 years to get it right, and you get feedback, and you try to get on Instagram and you post something and it didn't work, and you have to like be humble and like realize, okay, I got to try again, and sometimes that comes with tears.
Right.
Like it's not like you messed up, but you just like, it takes time to like do that. And then the next step is clarify your why. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing what you're doing? And just understand that and write that down and remember that and remind yourself of that. Put it on a piece of paper and keep it before you.
Mm-hmm.
And then set yourself up to succeed. And this is one of the steps that I'm working on, is peace. Like, having times where you have times of solitude, and you set yourself up to succeed, and you have peace in your day. And as a mom of, we all have busy lives. And so we need times of solitude. We need times where we spend time in quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and we read good books, we eat healthy food, we get enough sleep, we listen to inspiring people, and we drink water, and we listen to podcasts, and like, we just take that time to set ourselves up to succeed. And then the last step is what I talked about, kind of touched on, is allow for feedback. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you do something, like, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get constructive criticism, and some people might like what you're doing and some people won't, but that's okay. And like, you can give yourself chances to keep doing it. And, sometimes that's not always easy, but it helps to moves you towards healing.
Right. Wow. Thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, like, these steps will help in healing? Can you tell us what is self-sabotage is? Is it the same thing, like you're not healed and then you are self-sabotaging, or what it is?
I think what I've learned that self-sabotage is avoiding your negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having anxiety, or you're struggling with depression, but you're just pushing it down and you don't want to deal with it. And then you get stuck. And that happened to me for years. And then I think also self-sabotage is you are going after a desire, but you keep kind of like not making excuses, but you'll do something so that it won't happen. So like if today, say I'm doing a YouTube video with you today, and I self-sabotage myself. So I tell you, Rupali, I can't do the video because I'm sick, or I can't do the video because I'm not prepared. And you just make these, you're not making excuses, but you're kind of just trying to stay at a certain level so you don't move forward, and you just don't want to deal with your emotions. And so you make it like where it doesn't happen. So like you're like, I want to do this video today, but I'm really nervous, so I'm just going to tell her that I can't do it. And then you just say forget the whole thing. And that's a lot of what, self-sabotage.
Right. Lots of people does that, like not seeing what to do. They want to do it, but they didn't take a step. Or like some people not go out to meet someone. It's like, no, if I go, I will be seen and maybe criticized.
Yeah, or you'll be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So how can we remove this self-sabotage thing from our thinking?
I think one of the ways that you could do it is working through the steps. Like just working through each step, and humility, accepting your circumstances, and mourning and taking responsibility for your life. And then even being self-aware, like, okay, I want to meet with this friend today, but I'm nervous and I want to like call them and cancel. And so I'm starting to get into self-sabotage mode. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be aware of that, and I'm going to work through these emotions. And there's probably a thought in my head that I'm thinking that's causing me to want to self-sabotage, or I don't feel like I'm good enough. So I don't feel like the person, I'm good enough for them. So I'm just going to cancel. But instead going to meet them anyways, and like working through those thoughts and emotions instead of like avoiding them, like being aware of them.
Right. It's like first awareness that you have these kind of thoughts which are self-sabotaging you, and then accept it and do it anyway.
Yeah, and sometimes that's hard, and you'll be invited somewhere, maybe to speak, or you'll be invited to do something, and you may get sick, or you might not take care of your body the right way. And so sometimes like you might not be able to go, because you got sick and you didn't take care of your body. And so that's kind of a little bit harder to deal with. Then you have to say, okay, I have to be more aware of myself next time. Like I'm doing this again, and I need to work through this.
So for the healing, do you have that same steps, 8 steps, or do you have something else? Like how can women take the healing in their life?
I can tell you, I think one of the ways in healing, and I could share my story with you a little bit, but working through the steps is definitely a place to start with healing, like starting with accepting your circumstances. Because I know when I was in the process of healing, like I said, I resisted my emotions, and I wish the struggles in my life wouldn't have happened. And I wish that I didn't have miscarriages, and I wish I didn't have trauma from my past. And I wanted to avoid the pain, but that only made it worse. That only led to more trauma. And I think grieving your losses and accepting that and taking responsibility for your emotions, that is the beginning of healing. When you say, this did happen to me and I can't change that. Yes, it hurts. I had 7 miscarriages, and that's so painful. And I had to grieve that, and I had to bring that up again and deal with it. And then I had to take responsibility for those emotions and say, it's my responsibility to heal. It's nobody else's responsibility to help me do this. I have to take responsibility. And I think those are just the beginning steps to healing.
Right. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Do you have any book like you love to share, that this book is ultimate to read?
Yes. I love a book. It's called That Side of Heaven.
That Side of Heaven.
And it's by a lady named Heather Butler.
Okay.
And it's about 5 women and their stories of loss and miscarriage from the beginning, like the pain and the trauma, and into healing and what happened in each steps. And she just goes through each woman's story of their grief, you know, how they remembered their babies, things that people said. And that is such a good book. I also love another book. Her name's Adrielle Booker. It's called Grace Like Scarlet. And she has more of like an in-depth journey about miscarriage. She shares her story, but she also talks about like how you can be healed and how you can remember your baby and how men grieve and how different stages of grief and how other people might talk to you about your grief. I really love that one too. There was another one too. There's one, it's called, it's so good. I can't remember it on my mind right now, but like I've read so many books. So like they've really helped me. There's one by her name's Krista Black Gifford. And she wrote a book called, it's about becoming whole, The Wholehearted Woman. And that was a really good book. And she had a stillborn and she talked about like how she would deal with her grief. She would go to bed at night and she would talk about what she was feeling in her grief. And it was really such a good book to just go to. And just, I like reading books because it gives me kind of like, oh, they understand. Like they've been there too. And I'm not the only one. It helps me not to feel alone. But it also gives you resources to move forward and to go through healing.
Right. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Any last words you want to share with some us?
Yeah, so I think I want to say that if you've had a miscarriage or you've had a loss, you know, don't resist your pain. Like, I know it's hard and I know that it hurts. And it took me years of resisting my pain and numbing my pain with food and ice cream. And then I was stuck in these cycles of depression and shame and self-hatred and anxiety. But when I finally made the choice to like, I'm going to work through these emotions, that was like a big step towards my healing process. Like it started in like 2017, and like, it's okay to grieve. Like when I started to actually heal was when I started to feel that deep pain, and I let myself cry and I let myself be angry and I let myself feel my emotions and talk to people about it and you know, journal about it. And it's okay to feel these emotions. It's okay to struggle, but it's also okay to like take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Like it's 2020. I started this journey in 2014. So it took me years of just crying and letting myself grieve, and then reading books and journaling about it and getting angry and like talking to God about it and telling him how I felt and talking to other people about it. And it didn't happen overnight. It was a process, and it was me loving myself well. It was me making little decisions along the way, and also finding a podcast to listen to that really helped me to work through my emotions. So I just would say, like, it's a process, and just make that choice to go to do the work and to decide to work through your emotions. And if you need like a friend to talk to about it, or you need like a coach, you know, there's some great people online, and then I'm sure you have people in your life that you could talk to about it. But as women, when we struggle with pain, sometimes we don't want to talk to anybody about it and open up. And it's okay it's really better to open up, because otherwise you're in years and years of pain. So, right. And it's a process, really. That's what I'd like to say, that it's a process. It does not happen overnight. You have to keep doing the work, and it's painful sometimes, and that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable. You're right. Thank you, Shannon. It was a very deep knowledge you gave us, and the steps you gave us to deal with the self-sabotage thing. That's awesome. We want to thank you for coming here, and it was awesome.
Yay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.